Alright you guys, so here we are underneath the truck. I'm going to show you guys where to find the oil pan and the drain plug and all that good stuff. So that's the drain plug we're going to remove. That's a 15 millimeter. Be really careful, because my first time under here, because the filter's there, I thought that was a drain plug, and it's not. So if you see that oil filter, you want to follow it all the way across, and the actual plug is right there. Okay. And again, just take a good look at the pan. This one is a transmission pan, so we don't want to mess with that one. There is no plug you want to remove on that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put our ratchet right there with the 15 millimeter and start loosening it up. So I've got myself all set up here. I got my pan, and I've got my ratchet hooked up to the bolt. Now what you're gonna do is, the way you want to turn this is you want to push, to loosen it, you want to push towards the front of the car. So you're gonna go that way. All right. Sometimes these things get pretty hard to turn, and sometimes you're like, I don't know which way to turn it, but just so you know, so you're not turning the wrong way, you want to push towards the front of the car or the truck. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that bolt, and then let the oil just drain down into the pan. It's pretty easy. Another tip is you want to make sure your car is not hot, because that oil will come out real hot, and more times than not you'll get some on your hands and you want to burn your hands. So make sure your car is cool before you do this. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I'll be back with you guys in a sec. Okay, so here's the bolt that came off. As you can see, there's like a washer to it with a little, I think it's like a gasket right there. You want to make sure that's still in good shape, because if that is too worn, you might want to consider getting a new one so that you don't have like an oil leak or anything. And make sure you keep that on there, so when you put this back on, it goes back on as one piece. Alright, so once this is done draining out, you want to put your bolt back on there. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. And the next thing we're gonna do is slide our oil pan over, just right underneath the filter, the oil filter, because we're gonna remove that next. Okay, so I broke it free, if you can see there. You don't have much room to turn that with your hand like I normally do on other cars, so I had to use a specialty tool for it, and I'll show you what it is. It's this here. Basically it's an adapter. You put it on the bottom of the filter and turn it, and then it breaks it free, because I didn't have enough space to use it by hand. Maybe you do, but my hands didn't fit at least enough to get enough torque to turn it. So I'm just gonna finish turning this thing all the way off, empty the oil that's in there into our pan here, and then we'll put the new filter back on. And that's what you're left with after you remove that filter. So we're just gonna let that finish dropping all the way down. It's almost done there. But basically now what I'm gonna do is just clean up that area so there's no like oil just dripping down the car. I'm just a little picky about that, so I'm gonna clean that area up, and then we're gonna screw the new oil filter in there. And for this oil change, we're going to use Mobil 1 5W30 oil, synthetic, with a Wix XP filter. Before we go ahead and screw this new filter back under the car, what I like to do, or what you should do, is take a little bit of the new oil and just with your finger and just smear it all around there, especially that gasket, before you screw it back on the car. Okay, now that she's all lubed up, we're going to stick it in and start turning. There's a little bit of oil dripping there. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and grab that tool and make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, so once you have the filter on and your bolt back on, we're gonna leave the pan, the oil drain pan, under the car, under the filter and the bolt if you have a big enough drain, and we're gonna start to add oil into the engine. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, and we're gonna add the oil right in here. Remove that cap. Put your filter in there or your cone, and then you can start dumping away. And this thing is gonna take 6 quarts. So that's the first one. Oops, sorry guys, I'm working with one hand here. And I'm gonna use 2 hands for this big one, so I'll be right back. All right, now that you've got all that, you want to check down here again, just to make sure that it's not dripping down. So if it's dripping down, you want to tighten something up quickly. Typically, I would check this after your first quart, just to, you know, really make sure you're not dripping a bunch of oil. And then, again, once we're done with the oil, we're going to turn the truck on and check it out one more time while it's on to see if it's dripping anything. Don't forget to put your cap back on here. All right, let's turn the truck on. All right. So let's go underneath and make sure nothing's dripping. Everything looks good. I think we're done here. And before we wrap this up or finish it up, we're gonna reset the oil life. So you're gonna go over here, click on this one, I believe, a couple times until you see the oil life. Oh, first one for me there, so 25. And then what you wanna do is push the check mark here. That should reset it if you hold it down for a few seconds. There you are. And you are all done. That's how you change the oil in 2007 through 2014 Chevy Tahoe. And honestly, this is the same procedure for most cars. If you follow my channel, you'll see that on my Cadillac ATS, it's the same procedure. It's pretty easy process. And the one thing I will mention that I love about the Tahoe is that you have enough clearance in this truck to slide underneath without having to jack it up. I was a little worried about that at first because I don't have jack stands that are heavy enough to pick this thing up. Because this is my first SUV, so you know, I was like, oh man, I have to go and invest in a new floor jack and new stands and whatnot, or ramps. But no, I mean, I fit right underneath there perfectly fine, enough clearance to get everything done, and saved myself some money by doing this at a dealership. So hope you guys you know, have the courage to do this on your own. Hope you learned something, and if you have any questions or anything like that, you know, hit me up with some comments. You guys take care. God bless.